Hi, welcome back to West Coast Geeks. I'm your host, Joaquin. How we doing, people? You know who's with me.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. Indeed, it's Greg. So today's video, as you can see, B1 in Search of the Unknown, the first module included in the Holmes box set. That's what we're talking about today, people. So, the description on this module didn't even have one. Just funny. So I'll tell you some little fun facts about it. 1979. It says right here on the cover, this package, a cover folder with maps and descriptive booklet within, forms a complete module for use of the basic Dungeons and Dragons. It is especially designed as an instructional aid for beginning dungeon masters and players, specifically created to enable new dungeon masters to initiate play with minimum preparation. With only minor modifications, this module is also emulated. That can't be emulated. Yeah, it might be. Emulated, suitable for with advanced Dungeons and Dragons as well. Yeah, hmm. So, Greg, how do you pronounce this word? For those of you at home don't know this, I'm dyslexic, so every now and then I'll bump into a word that doesn't seem right to me, but it's Eminently. Emi-
Where, where is it? I can barely see those words.
yeah,
Is it emulated?
emulated. So I said that right.
Emulated. No, immolated is like getting a sword poked through you.
Hmm.
Or is it the fire?
Yeah,
Immolated.
people. I never.
It's something you don't want to have happen to you.
Yeah, hold on. I get ready to look at your phone real quick. Close up of the word. So while Greg's gonna look at this word, and he'll tell me what it is. In, this, in addition to descriptive and situational material, the module also
That's
includes
fire.
special information section giving background history, legends, listing of possible monsters and treasures, how to place them, a list of adventuring characters, tips on various aspects of play for the dungeon master, and a helpful advice for starting players. So how do I pronounce that word?
Emulated?
Emulated? Yeah, all right.
Emulated. Yeah.
Emulated. So I guess I was right the first time. It just felt weird. I mean, just looked weird. So as you can see, cover art right here. I want to say at one point there was an actual dispute about this cover art. There was another artist who did something similar, so there was kind of like a little bit back and forth who came what, and you could find out that information in the. They made this Dungeons and Dragons art book that you can get at like Barnes and Nobles. It's called The Art and Arcania: A Visual History, and they go into that for a second. So I was just like, oh, that is interesting, if I remember it correctly. So this book covers the visual history of D&D. I should have took a picture of that and put it there, but that doesn't really matter because we're talking about B1. So in the back, you have what came out the same year as this, which was if you saw our last video, was the box set. It's pretty much the same thing. I just thought it was interesting that the G1, the Steading of the Hill Giants, G2, G3, and then the D series, and then S1 were like the first modules printed for Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Now, I know, Greg, you said you haven't played any of these adventures, but if you had a choice to pick between going against the giants or going down into the depths of the earth and fighting the Kuatoa and the Drow, and I'm sure you heard of the Tomb of Horrors, which one of those would be like it would perk your interest? Be like, hey, I'd like to play that.
Um, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, if I, to all fairness to Greg, if I just read that off, basically it's going to come down to do you want to fight, do you want to go fight giants? And then all those kind of led into each other, except for the Tomb of Horrors. So, depending on how you played those adventures or how you linked them all together, you can do whatever. So, here's our cover page. And the reason why I'm showing these maps because I just wanted to show you guys the style they were back then. These are like, one of the first printed Dungeons and Dragon maps, and it can, even though you haven't had a chance to play this and you're a player, you can look up this information now. I mean, anytime that you play any of these modules, you can look them up online. And if you do, you're actually really hurting yourself. Have you ever done that, Greg? Like, if I tell you we're playing this module, have you ever been tempted to go look at it?
Well, with the Villager Hamlet, I had already seen a video on it before we played it. I didn't know it was the whatever it's called, but I didn't know what it was part of.
Yeah,
I had seen the thing. That's why I knew that all this every house has something buried in the backyard or something.
yeah,
And I was like, oh, I don't want to use that knowledge.
yeah. No, and that's gonna happen because like you'll see videos like this, and you my recommendation for DMs, especially new DMs who grab these modules, still tweak them, make them your own. All right, so they have their introductory section. And I want to say these early modules, especially B1 and B2, really do a good job. They do the intro. Excuse me. They have notes for the DM. Um, they tell you, several one-way secret doors. They give you like what do they call that? Like the legend or the key to explain things. If you see J or whatever. Um, they have preparation for the use of the module, which is the next page. And they really do go into detail on excuse me for new dungeon masters, like how to handle when players go seeking hirelings and henchmen, because back then you usually went in with a crew of like 3 or 4 hirelings when you played the game, because things happened. It was brutal, and that was like first edition. They go over time, commuting computing experience. Greg, did you know back in the days that you would get experience points for collecting gold?
No, but that kind of makes sense, I suppose.
Yeah. So on top of killing creatures, any gold that you were able to pull out of, the dungeon or whatever, that also got divided. So there's a reason why they, the first edition was like considered like just this Monty Hall style, where everywhere you went, you killed something and there would be a lot of gold or something.
Kind of neat though. I like that. That way, if you can like bypass a monster and still get the treasure,
Yeah.
it still rewards you. That's cool. I like that.
Yeah, so they kind of like done that in fifth edition, where they're telling you to give out more experience for like story bonuses. That's why, like, if when you're playing, and Greg's part of my current group, after a session, depending on what they did, if they rescued some people or they moved along the narrative, I give them like a story bonus. And it can be anywhere between 1 and 500 experience per session, just for a bonus. And I try to cap it off around 500. Let's say we're like 10th level or 8th or 9th, then maybe you do 1,000. But at first level, if you give everybody 100, that's like 500 experience or 400 experience. And for like first level, that's a lot. Because what does it take to get to second, Greg? Do you remember? like 300, right?
Uh, it's like 100, 400 or something like that.
Hmm. Well, yeah, I think you're right. It's either 3 or 400. So it's not that hard to jump from first to second. And then from that point on, it starts moving, the goalpost starts really moving back. So next, they continue that, and then they give you like another little quick section here about using the module with Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And I'll go over this real quick, this short little paragraph. Although this module is specifically designed for use of basic D&D, experienced players will have no difficulty in using this package with the rules for Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. So if you saw our last video, you know that the monster manual had already come out and the player's handbook was coming out. So dungeon masters who wish to employ the module with the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons will have no problem utilizing the 2-level maps and the descriptive copy to form the basic outline. In a similar manner, the legend table will be used as described. The DM, however, can discard and the various list of monsters, treasures, and non-player characters and make the appropriate substitution using the greater and more challenging ideas of his own, which will match the greater experience of the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons players. Likewise, more formidable and deadly tricks and traps will also be called for in order to fully challenge the mettle of the more sophisticated players. So I would consider Greg, even if he starts his character at first level, he is an experienced player. And if you've seen any of our other videos with like cantrips, you'll get that he knows what he's doing. So, Greg, how long have you been playing D&D for? On and off?
Uh, I don't know, 7 years maybe.
Yeah. So, Greg's been around. So, like I said, check out the arcade trip videos, and you might learn learn a thing or two. So, like most of these modules, they usually have a background to give you a reason to go exploring. And in this case, there were 2 adventurers, Rogan the Fearless, a fighter of renown, and Vigar the Unknown, a magic user of mystery and power. So they had a little like fortress and a dungeon, and they died. that's it. That's the long story short, they died. So people have been going into their sanctuary, or at least discovering it, and trying to see what treasure that they had left down there. But since the place has been abandoned for so long, there's monsters down there now. So you got a legends table, and this is to help at the very beginning to kind of help motivate your players. Like they could be at an inn or on the road somewhere, and you just have somebody just talk about you know their dungeon where you could just roll something randomly and be like, did you know that in this dungeon the very walls speak to visitors? And just play it off like that. Then they have the dungeon. So I picked a page because it had some cool artwork. They have the wandering monsters, and they go into the descriptions, and I'm gonna try to keep this, um, pretty friendly review. So both for players and dungeon masters alike. So they also give you rules here. Can you read that part, Greg?
What the?
The bending the bars and lifting the gates.
Yeah, I can see the. Yeah, this is bigger print.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I made sure I made that close. So in here they give you the actual rules of like bending bars and lifting gates, and adventurers with a strength rating of 13, 14, or 15 have a 5% chance of bending the bars or lifting the gates. Those with strength 16 above have a 10% chance of doing so, and those with 17 or 18 have a 15. So yeah, the odds are you probably weren't bending the gates and stuff. So I like the artwork. I thought I'd show it. Pretty cool. Here's another place in the adventure where there are pools that you can discover. And I'll just leave it at that. Not going to give any descriptions or anything, but as you can see, They're testing out the pools to see what they do. And now we get to a trap section where they describe a room where you can have your whole party just fall into a trap, which is something I would like to actually do to this group right here if I get a chance to. Where they just walk into the room, they think everything's cool, and then the floor just opens up and they fall down. Wouldn't that
Be
be fun,
fine.
Greg?
I can see everything.
I
My
know.
my perception is amazing.
See, so Greg says that because don't you usually fail all that?
Yep.
Greg
Yep.
will be
I
up
do.
front. I'll be like, roll perception to see if you hear or see anything. And Greg
7,
averages what?
like 7.
Yeah, I was going to say 7 or 8. I'm like, the rest of you see this, and Greg's just admiring the butterflies in the trees right before they get ambushed.
Butterflies in the trees, and we're underground. Yeah.
Yeah, or he's looking at the stalactites. I don't know I don't know what caught your interest, but something caught your interest. But it wasn't the creatures coming. So then we get to the end of the adventure, and they give out the closing tips, which I think is pretty cool. And then they have a monster list. And what I like about this is that each room just says treasure and location. So you just get to pick where you want to put these monsters. So in the early days, when you got this box set, it was most likely you and your players were going to go through this several times, and each time it can be a little bit different because they're like, "Oh, this is the room where we met the orcs. Okay, beware!" And they open up the door and there's nothing there. And then the next room they get hit by a giant spider that they didn't encounter before. So they give you hints on the treasures list, and then these are more monsters that they suggested, and these are just suggestions. You kind of got the sense if you had the monster manual to keep these very low level creatures, because at first and maybe up to second level you still weren't going to be able to handle a lot of big things. Like you wouldn't throw like 3 ogres at them or something because probably kill your entire party. What do you think of these creatures, Greg? Can you see them?
Monsters. I think you went over this
The orcs,
off.
troglodytes, kobolds.
Yeah. A lot of classic creatures.
Yeah, they do. I mean, this is like, yeah, because we went over that in the rule book for the Holmes box set. So they did include most of those monsters there just to make it a little bit easier for you because there might be additional rules. And then we have the treasures list. And the treasures list is the same thing. As a DM, you pick out the treasures. And once again, they highlight the bag of devouring, which I think is funny. And at first level, you can find a potion of invisibility. I know Greg would love to find that.
Sure.
So the
Well, my
potions.
other
I'm,
character.
Hey, but I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Depending on which character.
Yeah. So sometimes the potions work different in first edition. Sometimes they could have up to like 2 or 3 doses. And so the potion of invisibility in this one has 2 doses and it has a 2 hours, where now you just drink the whole thing and then, you gain the benefit. So they give you a list of player characters using the character list for henchman or hireling. They have a list of like available henchmen and hireling, character alignment of them, non-player character personalities. So as a DM, especially when you're first being a DM, and you're trying to figure out, well, how are they? You would just roll these charts up here, and you would know that they're loyal, their courage, attitude, disposition, and then finally you have a chart where if you want to just make up characters really quick, you would just roll a d12 and bam, you got your stats right there. You know, you could be the mystical one and you're a cleric. Or Lefto, the halfling, who's a fighter. That's who you should play next, Greg. Lefto.
Lefto.
And for Magic users, did you ever see the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon?
No.
Wow. Well, they had this character named Presto, and I remember when I was playing D&D and I was DMing, I'd ask my player characters, "Well, what's your mage's name?" They'd always say Presto. You know, and I just would shake my head. I go, "You can't be Presto, dude." I go, "Think of something else." They're like, "Oh, well, then call me Gandalf." I was like, "Oh man, can you come up with something more original?" You know, like I don't know, Glom the Mighty. And there's a good mage name. And they give you what level you can be starting out, hit dice, your spells. That's on the next one. Got some cool artwork of a mage fighting a spider. Thieves list. You could be Lavine, the Lightfinger. There's another halfling you could be. Harg of the City of Far. There's a human. And then they give you like the starting your level and what equipment you might have. And again, you don't really see people fighting mummies anymore. But here you go. Here's the player's background sheet where they tell you where the location of this is or helps you put it into your own campaign. And then finally, they have a list of potential characters. And they have some tips for the players. So I'll read these tips off, Greg, and you tell me if you think these are a good tip. All right. Beginning players would do well to profit from some basic advice before beginning their D&D careers. And with that in mind, the following points are offered for consideration. Excuse me. Be an organized player. Keep accurate records of your character, experience, abilities, items possessed, etc., for your own purpose and to aid the DM. Good tip. Still relevant?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think so. Number 2, always keep in mind that the Dungeon Master is the moderate of the game, and as such deserves the continued cooperation, consideration, and respect of all the players. If you disagree with him, present your point of view. Present your point of view with deference to his position as the game judge, but be prepared to accept his decision as final. After all, keep in mind that you may not know all the aspects of the overall gaming situation, and in that case, not everything will always go your way. What do you think of that rule? That tip?
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah. Sure.
so far, 2 for 2. Number 3, cooperate with your fellow players and work together when adventuring. Remember that on any foray into the dungeons or wilderness, a mixed character class will be beneficial, since the special abilities of various characters will complement each other and add to the overall effectiveness of the party.
I
Yep.
mean, okay. But I don't know. You could have fun. I always wanted to do like a campaign where everybody was the same class.
Yeah,
Like it was, oh, it's wizard school or some fighting academy or something like that. See if that would even work out.
it can if the DM knows
Yeah, right.
knows
I mean,
ahead, like this is what you guys are
oh,
gonna do, so you can tailor it more.
yeah,
Like you
yeah,
know, um, if you had like a wizard's class, you know not to throw too many like mini monsters at them because then they'll get overwhelmed quick. Like because they're gonna run out of spells ish. at first level, but they still have their cantrip damage spells, but they don't have good armor class, so But yeah, those are interesting groups. I've DM'd a group of all wizards and another group of all thieves in the city of Greyhawk. That was pretty fun.
All thieves would be fun.
Mm. All right, number 4. Be neither too hasty or too sluggish when adventuring. If you are too fast in your exploration, you may be recklessly endangering yourself and fellow adventurers and fall prone to every trick, and trap you encounter. If you are too slow, you will waste valuable time and may be waylaid by more than your share of wandering monsters without accomplishing anything. As you gain player experience, you will learn the proper pace, but rely on your DM for guidance. Hmm. Words of wisdom or outdated?
Still pretty good.
Yeah. All right. All right. Number 5. Avoid arguing. While disagreements about a course of action will certainly arise from time to time, players should quickly discuss their options and reach a consensus in order to proceed. Bickering in the dungeon will only create noise, which may well attract wandering monsters. Above all, remember that D&D is a game and a little consideration will go far avoiding any hard feelings.
I mean, I usually encounter the other problem where no one wants to make a decision because no one wants to like be the forceful one. So it's just a committee of I don't know, maybe we should do this or that. And no one makes a decision.
Yeah. That was mostly our Temple of the Evil campaign. There were
Hmm.
certain parts where you guys were I was just like, "Oh my god, can we do something?" like let's just do something. So, yeah, sometimes they can overthink too many. Number 6, be on guard. Don't be overly cautious, but be advised that some non-player characters may try to hoodwink you. Players may double cross you, and while adventuring tricks and traps awaiting the unwary, of course, you won't avoid every such pitfall. Dealing with the uncertainties is part of the fun and challenge of the game. But don't be surprised if everything is not always as it seems.
Never trust an NPC. Don't. There's like
Why?
maybe like 1 out of 10 is actually going to be nice to you the whole duration. The rest will stab you in the back at some point.
That's really based on your DM.
Yes, Joaquin, I know.
I guess that's a hint, people. That I should put more. I tried to give you guys a useful NPC in this current campaign that we're doing, and you
No,
guys
you
let
can't,
him die.
Joaquin. You cannot give 9 backstabbing NPCs. Then when you present the 10 one, and then we get rid of that one, you say, "Why don't you ever take the good one?" No, 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 no. You've set up the expectation, and we've learned. You taught us how to treat NPCs.
That's not true. You had NPCs at Hamlet help you. What about Mother Scrag and her daughter? And
For
Otis.
people, they followed Cuthbert.
So they were good people. They helped you.
And
Gave you healing potions for free.
while we were helpful to them, sure, they turn on us as soon as we were done.
They would not have turned on you. Not even being over. Not even getting out of hand. All right. So, um, let's move on. So far, 6 for 6 are pretty good. Not bad for all these old timers here. Treat any hireling or henchman fairly. If you reward them generously and do not expose them to great risk of life and limb that your own character would not face, then you can expect a continuing loyalty, although there may be exceptions, of course.
I mean, sure.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. This current group, and it even started before then. But to quote Sean, he's like, "I don't want any XP sponges around." And ever since he said that, everybody's like, "Yeah, we don't want any XP sponges." And I'm like, "Oh my god, you guys know you need little help every now and then."
Yeah, but I don't. I kind of prefer having not having NPCs in the party.
You can also have hirelings.
No, I mean, and higher. I prefer not having them
Why? That's a good question. I'll
because
ask that right here.
it takes combat takes longer, and who controls them, and it's just
Yeah.
you know, it's about the game's about each player having their character, and it just drags everything down, in my opinion.
Hmm.
It's also kind of the same way when you have like, oh, what was it, 3.5? What was it, fourth edition or 3.5, where you could have like druids with like 8 different animals and
Yeah,
the whole zoo.
once they started having a lot of companions, I remember that would get out a little bit out of hand where you're like all this and that. But I don't know. Combat's kind of slow to begin with, so really when it comes to combat, it's going to come down to getting your people ready and making sure that when it hits their turn, they already know what they're going to do. So they should be paying attention to the game, and sometimes not everybody's paying attention to the game constantly because like even when it's worse online.
Yeah,
So you'll
but
have people that
the quicker you go through a round,
yep.
the more people will pay attention.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, as a DM, you got to learn to keep everybody intact. So yeah, still good advice. All right, number 8. And I think you guys are going to you guys would benefit from this one. Know your limits. Your party may not be able to be a match for every monster you encounter, and occasionally it pays know when and how to run away from danger. Likewise, a dungeon adventurer may have to be cut short if your party suffers great adversity and or depleted strengths. Many times it will take more than one adventure to accomplish certain goals, and it will thus be necessary to come back out of a dungeon to heal wounds, restoring magical abilities and spells, and reinforce a party's strength.
Yeah,
Yeah, just don't overdo it. There's two. We'll talk about two little short stories. One, Temple of Evil, we're always going to keep harping back to. Um, Greg, go ahead. I'll let you tell it. Jesus.
no, we couldn't ever go anywhere because by the time we got in, by the time we got into the parts of the temple that we haven't been to yet, we'd already have gone through all of our stuff. I mean, our health potions and spells and whatever, and we had to come back out and go home to resupply. So just a pain.
Yeah. And it got to the point where I actually thought about just burning down the village of Nob or something. you're like, you get no help here. And the current situation that they're in, and I was talking with Eric, and to make sure that he's available for Monday, which he is. Um, I was really shocked that you guys didn't take a short rest before pushing on. Because right now they're
I
being
wasn't
lit
there.
up by
I
kobolds.
wasn't I wasn't there to make that decision.
Oh, that's right. You were gone. Yeah.
That's a decision other people made.
Mm-hmm. Which is even, but here's the thing. Eric is like myself, and same thing with Martin. They started around a little bit after me, or about the same time as me. And so, as a DM, and now that you're also players, they should know better. You should just you just lost. Some of your characters have lost close to half their health and everything. Used up a spell slot or two. Um, we should have rested. And they're like, well, we're gonna rest. And I was like, you could have rested in the spider cave. I told you there was a language of the kobolds on the cave walls that was showing all these danger signs. So if you'd have pushed to the very back, you had already cleared out all the spiders. You could have just rested there for an hour. And then he goes, well, the problem with a short rest is you never know what's going to come and bother you. I go, I wouldn't have bothered you. I would have let you guys have it. That's the other tip for a DM, even though it's not in here. This is more player's tip. Know when to bother a group, or at least roll the d6 to see if something does, like just leave it up to fate and let them see the dice roll. Or just let them have that little short rest so they can, gain their strength and move on. So, number 8, still relevant, know your limits. All right, number 9, use your head. Many of the characters' goals in the game can be accomplished through a strength of arms and magic. Others, however, demand a common sense and shrewd judgment, as well as logical deduction. The most successful players are those who can efficiently use both aspects of the game to their advantage.
Yeah. True, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like, to me, this is like, it's been a long time since I've looked at this adventure, because, like, most of the time I skipped over it just because I was like, man, I don't want to do all this stuff myself. That's why I bought the module. I can make little tweaks as I go, but, basically everything's here. But yeah, now, um, if you're like looking for a good list to give to people when they're first playing, like, hey, we're gonna be playing D&D, and you meet up on your session 0. I would print out this little tip list, like, I'd photocopy it, or copy it and paste it, and I'd give it to the person who's never really played D&D before. What do you think, Greg?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, they're nice little tips, let you know. And now, number 10. D&D is a role-playing game, and the fun of the game comes in playing your character's roles. Take on your character's persona and immerse yourself in the game setting. Enjoy the fantasy element and the interaction with yourself, with your fellow players, and the dungeon masters. And then it says, enjoy yourself and good luck. So all these rules are like really relevant, and I would say number 10 is the most important, wouldn't you?
No.
You wouldn't? Not to have fun and just,
Oh, this is serious business, rolling these dice.
Greg.
There's monsters at hand and treasure to be had. This is no time for jest.
So, if we ever put it out there that we're seeking a new player, and you can join us on Discord and play, and you're brand new, just know that Greg takes this game serious. And if I give you this list, Greg will tell you to cross out number 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
So that's right there. This is where you can actually, this is a really good deal right here. It's called Into the Borderland. It gives you B1 and B2, which is a nice segue because that's the next adventure that we're really going to go into depth, because Greg has been a player and I've been a DM to this, and I consider this one of the best starting adventures out there, So overall, B1 is what it is. It's one of the first modules that came out to print. Yeah, there are probably some before it. I'll probably hear that in a comment. No, blah 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 was before B1, but this is the one in the box set. This is the one that most people know about. Same thing with Keep on the Borderlands, and a lot of dungeon masters who bought this box set, this is what they learned D&D from. So
There was probably an A1 before this.
there's probably a what?
An A1?
There
before
was.
this?
It came out later. It's called Against the Slave Lords. That's
Oh,
actually
well,
a good set.
A comes before B.
I know, but they started off with B. Know what to tell you, man.
No, you're wrong in the comments. I'll tell you in the comments that you're wrong.
Oh, well, Yeah, I would love to hear from you. If you're new to the channel, hello. You made it this far. Thanks for stopping by. Leave a like if you enjoyed the content. New to the channel, subscribe. Help support the channel. And hit the notification so you will never miss these videos. Final thoughts now that you've seen a somewhat basic review, Greg, of this adventure?
Yeah, seemed good for the time. I think more modern things would be better for new players, but I think it's
Yeah,
a good way to it's a good for people to have like a nostalgia to go back or you know bring new people into it that have that are will get into it quick enough that you know uh who can learn quickly.
yeah. I mean, basically, this is a good module to help you design your own dungeons because they have some unique aspects that I didn't want to go into because, as a DM, I don't want to give out this. And then as a player, I don't want to ruin anything for you. So, I think, um, like if we were to grade this on like a D20, I would probably give this like a 15. What would you give it, Greg?
Out of 20,
Mm-hmm.
mm, probably like 13, 14.
Yeah. So, I consider it like a 10 is average, all right? And then you move up and, this I consider this just a little bit above average. It looks like Greg would put it, and I would put it above average only because for a printed first level adventure dungeon, this gives a lot of information to help out new dungeon masters. And that's the reason why I put it up a few more extra points than Greg normally would, because this really was a helpful tool. That was that. I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you next video. Catch you later.
Yeah.